Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sphere of Success, where we look at the whole idea in business that challenge and adversity that we face isn't just all doom and gloom. It can be the way in which we really shine and get the very best out of an opportunity, even when we think, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not too sure how I'm going to do this. It's all a learning curve. And the benefit of hindsight means that we can look back and sometimes those really difficult issues can be the making of us and our businesses. And in a broader perspective, as we all know, AI is here, like it or not. We're gonna be affected by AI. And we can all look at this in a different way, but if we can look at it through the lens of positivity, if we can look at it through the lens of opportunity, growth potential for all, because some people might be worried about the jobs, but there are going to be things which come into the mainstream that you can redirect your talents for, etc. And today we have the most amazing guest, Richard Nicholas. He is an AI lawyer. He's somebody that, in very simple terms, can bring the AI sphere into people's businesses, and no matter what line of business they're doing, he can help them get results with AI. So that can't be bad, can it? It's a really great skill to have and a very necessary one. So welcome, Richard. It's lovely to have you on the show.
It's very good to be here. Thank you, Deborah.
Wonderful. And yeah, I was just mucking about with AI the other day for some graphics and
Mhm.
some images, etc. And I'm like, my goodness me, it's all at our fingertips. And this was free as well, we didn't even have to subscribe to anything. So there's some great benefits around there. What got you into this whole idea about AI and the legal side and helping your clients?
Thanks, Deborah. Yeah, so I've been a lawyer. I trained as a lawyer. I've been a lawyer in private practice now for the last 24 years, doing technology law. So that's been everything from IT implementation, software as a service, cloud computing, GDPR when it came out was obviously a big line of work for lawyers and a disruption to businesses. And more recently, AI. And I've been advising clients on AI for some time and on their AI projects. But I think if you're a lawyer with any interest in their subject, um, almost by definition, you end up exploring it for yourself, learning about it for yourself. And for the last 2 and a bit years, I've been learning everything I can about actually using AI and actually how you can use AI in business, not just looking at the law, so the governance, the data protection issues, the IP issues, and that sort of thing, but also what you can actually do with it and how any business can really use AI and get the benefit for themselves. And that's been a huge journey, really, just learning what businesses can do with AI and how you can apply it to quite literally any role at all, whether it's large business or small business, because the AI already knows how it can help you. And that's really a well, that's an eye opener, really. Most people don't realize this. Most people treat AI almost like the mechanic would of you get the car, you get the Haynes manual, you open it up and you work out how to use the thing. Well, the point is AI already knows how it can help. It's ingested a huge amount of data. It knows your existing role, your job, and the things that you need to deliver in your job. And it can help you to do those things. All you need to do really is ask it the right questions. And that's quite an eye opener, um, because this is a phenomenal tool that we now all have at our disposal. Like you say, some of the recent models are free to use. They've been created using a huge amount of data, a huge amount of information. Um, there are inevitably all the sort of legal risks you might expect with them, but they're a phenomenal resource for us all, and that's presents its own challenges. Um, as a as a lawyer, in a profession that is threatened by AI. Quite honestly, I can see the challenge of this. It takes a huge amount of time to qualify as a lawyer and to actually become useful in a field. You actually need to spend a lot of time dealing with clients and dealing with their issues before you actually become not just qualified, but actually a useful lawyer, someone who can actually properly solve problems. Well, AI, because of its use of data, its knowledge of language and the way it uses language, it can actually be a threat to that. And quite rightly now, clients who come to me have often first looked at AI before they come to me, or they will be checking my answer, or they will be looking for answers themselves. So, like many professional services, AI is both a threat but also a huge opportunity.
And so, with the opportunity side of things, what do you hear most from your clients? Because you said any business
Yes,
can get AI results from AI.
yes.
If you say the top three things that people come to you with issues, what would they be?
I think one of the issues they come to me with is actually just knowing where to start, where to get the benefit. And what many people start with is actually the idea that they need to buy some sort of tool, some sort of bespoke tool that will somehow get their data from this database they've already got, use that data in some way. And whilst that may be true, that's actually a that's actually quite a leap. That actually takes quite a bit of work and quite a lot of implementation. And they see it as a software task, really implementing an existing database, getting their data structured properly in order to get the benefits of AI. So many businesses that come to me are actually looking at that level where they're getting their data set, getting that sorted, trying to work out a database, and actually trying to get benefits from AI that way. Whereas actually that may not be the easiest starting point for many businesses
And
because
what would
actually,
you recommend?
well, most businesses have a lot of people in them. Most people know how to do their job very well. They have a certain, as to quote from the film, they have a certain set of skills that can get a certain result. And most people in business have learnt the skills they need, the things that their customers want, and how to get to what their customers want. For most businesses, I would suggest a starting point rather than actually just trying to use their data and use machine learning to create a result which is a is an end result, and I've seen the benefits of that, and I've seen how businesses can do that. A simpler and easier task is actually just to get their own people using AI in their own role. So
And
it,
how would somebody be able to flesh that out?
hmm,
What do you do, Richard, that helps people to go through that process in a granular but simple way?
yes, well, I typically take clients through a series of workshops, and each of those workshops builds on a level of a level of questioning skills. It's really all about the questions that you ask, because what you realize when you're using any sort of large language model, and that could be OpenAI, it could be Gemini, it could be Copilot. It doesn't matter for any of those tools. You can build a level of skills just in terms of um, I would say prompting, but it's more than prompting. It's actually asking questions that matter to get the results that you're after. Because once once you've started down that process, what you'll find is your employees can be a very valuable asset to you. They can actually find the results using AI. And if you empower your people to do that, what's what's great about that compared to trying to impose an AI solution from the top is that actually what you'll find is your people will find creative ways to do the same thing using AI. They'll probably do it cheaper, faster, quicker. They will take a pride in their work and therefore will do the verification because having a what's called a human in the loop, having an individual person to actually check the results is very important. But the important thing is you're actually teaching that employee a skill. And that can be hugely empowering for those employees. And it's a way to get over the challenge of employees being threatened by AI is actually to give those employees a sense of purpose, make sure that they are learning a skill which is going to be valuable to them wherever they work. Now, that's of course a risk you always take as an employer. You're getting your employees skilled. And what we typically find is once we've taken a business through this process, the employees are happier. They're on board with the process because they're learning a skill that they can use for themselves, and they're collaborating and working together. So if they're learning something and going through a process together, they'll actually help the business rather than seeing this as a threat, rather than looking for problems, because there will be problems. No AI is perfect. It's probabilistic by nature. It's always guessing at the answer, but um, the end result of having your employees working on their own work, but using AI to do that, is a phenomenal return on the investment.
And so you said about the results that you get
Hmm.
any business
Hmm.
results with AI. Can
Yeah,
you give us some examples of those results in different types of businesses?
yeah, surely. Well, you've got everything from small startups that are doing marketing and typical uh, finding marketing copy and taking a client's brand and their story and everything like that, and actually applying that to manufacturers who might have back office um, systems that are looking at actually how they can do things quicker, faster, better. Um, as a lawyer myself, I use it for researching and finding answers to questions. There's ways of using AI that mean that you can save a huge amount of time, and you can also quickly verify and know that the result that you're getting back is either right, or if it's not right, you can make sure that you can check that for yourself. So manufacturers, retailers, we've seen the use of AI to predict certain patterns, to um, uh, create images. There are so many roles and deliverables within those roles that can be created by the use of AI, which simply speeds up the process. It doesn't replace the person. There still needs to be a human involved. You still actually need your people. In fact, you need your experts. You need the people to be able to tell whether the result is good enough, because that's something that AI doesn't know. It doesn't know whether the thing it's created. I mean, it's not sentient. Talking as with many people, I'm falling into the trap of speaking about AI as if it is sentient, as if it has some sort of intelligence of its own. It, of course, doesn't. It is guessing at language, but it has no idea, therefore, whether the thing it's created is any good or not. You need your people to do that, but your people, if they're equipped with the right skills in terms of questioning, in terms of being able to create long prompts that will give a predictable, repeatable result. If you get your people to do that, then those people will actually return to you the benefit that they're getting. They'll actually report back and they'll give you the ROI that you're getting effectively from their work, and it frees up people to do, frankly, more interesting, more creative work, and to get rid of some of the drudge. It's things like actually we had onboarding customers, the all of the checks and the working out the sorts of information that you need to ask a customer in order to get them through a process. It's all those sorts of processes that businesses have benefited from as well.
And so and I asked the question to top three, you said a lot of people
Yes.
come and they're wanting to transfer data and they're
Yes.
wanting to get everything right. And that's almost a little bit cart before the horse kind of scenario in that. What would you be saying would be another couple of things that people are coming to you
Hmm.
saying, we're desperate, we really need help with this?
Yes, some people come from that perspective of trying to get a solution, and they've looked and they think they need to buy a solution. Um, some people are just trying to get some people are actually just trying to get their employees trained up and are trying to make sure that they are building a sort of HR function that allows people to ask questions and create a culture where people can ask questions and get answers and not feel stupid doing this. So there's a little bit of, everyone will have to learn this stuff, wherever you are in an organization, you're going to have to effectively learn how to use tools that are available because they make such a difference. And if you can create, so part of it is about creating the right culture. And sometimes it's quite useful to have someone come in who can run a workshop, get your people around a table so that it's not the management telling the employees what to do. So there's a little bit of that. Um, and so if one thing is about buying the tools, if another is about actually just learning the thing, um, often what else do I get? I'm also, of course, doing the regular legal work, which is looking at the dangers and the challenges. And by the very nature of the sorts of people I deal with, which tend to be a lot of in-house lawyers, compliance people, those sorts of people, they're often looking for the downside. And looking to protect against the downside, which you can do. That you need to be aware of the risks of using AI, and there are plenty of legal issues, plenty of ethical issues as well. But all of those can be dealt with. There is an answer to most of the issues that come up in terms of how do you make sure it's secure? How do you make sure that it's not using personal data in a way that is not compliant with GDPR, for instance? How do you make sure that you're not breaching intellectual property rules when using AI? How do you make sure you're not breaching copyright? How do you make sure that your own employees are not likely to infringe third-party rights? All of these things there are answers to. So in some cases, what I found is you first have to deal with some of those objections before you can get onto the AI. But all of them are surmountable. Um, so there's no reason not to use AI because of the risks. You just need to understand them.
And with regards to legislation,
Mm,
because this is a very fast-paced and very intricate worldwide scenario here, ever
mhm.
changing, would you say that from a global perspective with the regulations that go around AI, that this is now sufficient, or do you feel that we've got some gaps in that whole framework with
Mhm.
regards to the legal side of it?
Well, you're right. It is fast changing. Even over the last few months, we've seen some quite dramatic changes in the US in terms of legislation. Um, there are there are gaps, but the great thing about um, looking at law from a UK perspective is, of course, that what some people get wrong is that the law applies to all new technologies. So when there's a new technology that comes out, whether it's, and it's been the same with cloud computing, it's been the same with blockchain, it's the same now with AI. Existing laws still apply, so um, you've still got IP legislation that applies. You've still got data protection legislation that applies. You've still got liability issues going back to the same law that applies in terms of liability and who's responsible for errors in AI is the same law that applied back in the 1930s to Donahue and Stevenson, which is one lady buying another a ginger beer, and there was a snail in it, and that gave rise to this whole area of negligence. And that's the point: is um, the law adapts. Now we do have regulation in the EU AI Act, and in other jurisdictions around the world. Now those will those are useful because they prevent certain types of development from coming out. Some of the more manipulative uses of AI, and I think that's quite useful. We don't really have that in the UK yet, but again, you can still use various bits of UK legislation, like employment legislation or discrimination legislation, in order to get over some of the worst bits of AI, because it could be it's a very powerful tool, and in the wrong hands, it's certainly a dangerous tool.
And I was going to go on to the fact that I recently had a wonderful lady who is talking about deep fake
Mm,
fraud, etc. How can people protect themselves from having themselves cloned in a way that then can be used to for extortion, for fraudulent activity, etc.? What can they do
mm.
to protect themselves?
I mean, it's difficult. Um, there are legal measures in terms of applying the law, but that's probably not what your question is about, because that gets you potentially a remedy. It might stop the thing happening, of ultimately getting an injunction. In reality, what can you do to stop it happening in the first place? It's actually quite tricky. There are some simple things that I think anyone ought to have in mind if they're concerned about a message that they may receive now, because we know that it's partly about being alive to the dangers. AI can fake a voice, it can fake an image, and therefore it can fake a message from, for instance, someone in your organization asking you to approve a transaction. It can fake an image and a voice of a friend asking for money, or someone telling you that they're in danger. The There isn't an easy technological fix to any of this. One thing that you could do is to make sure that you're asking questions that would allow you to identify the person. What can you actually ask that an AI trained on your behavior would not know about you, but that your friend or your boss or somebody would know about you,
That
given that.
reminds me
Mm,
of the
mm,
security questions where they ask
mm,
what's your mother's maiden name or what was the name of your first pet or something like
absolutely.
that.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking about your views on actually thinking, right, if anything odd were to happen that apparently you're asking me for money,
Yes.
if I just say something random that we both agree on that you will only know the answer to, just to check it out without me thinking that I'm absolutely weird, then
Yes.
shall we just put that random thing in there so that I can just make sure that it actually is you?
Yes. Absolutely. No, that's right. And I have seen some quite clever text versions of this where people have asked for a very complicated the answer to a very complicated question. And by contrast, they knew full well that the person would not give that, but the AI would, because the AI is trained to help. So the AI would give the code to a computer program broken, in a matter of seconds. So I've seen some clever ways around that. I don't think there is a foolproof me foolproof method. I think it is something that we just need to be alive to, and not believe everything that we see. Now that's no answer in some ways. That is just a danger that we are going to have to live with. Um, there are legal solutions to this. There is you know, obviously there is a way of bringing a claim against, if you can find the person actually um, uh, suing uh, in terms of defamation, in terms of various other legal rights. But that's an after the event
And kind of
fix.
tough when you're dealing with criminal gangs.
And if you're that's right, and if you're dealing with criminal gangs, and if you're dealing with someone who is able to hide their identity, that it's going to be difficult. So there's no good answer to this, I'm afraid. Um, there are things you can do in terms of, and again, this ought to be part of any training that you're rolling out to people is just what the dangers could be, and how to protect against it, or how to how to verify what they're seeing and hearing. In the same way that it's important to make sure that the result that you're getting from AI, you're verifying, you're checking, you're not necessarily believing it or dealing with it straight away. You also need to do that with interactions that you might have that may have been faked by AI.
Mm. And with regards to intellectual property, let's say, for instance, you want to write, we went back to a
Mm,
manual, but let's say, for instance, you do want to
yes.
write something that's actually quite lengthy,
Mm,
and using AI to help you with the structure and getting things in place, and then some of the content.
yeah.
How would you know? Is there a tool that you can use that can kind of de-plagiarize stuff? Because if you don't know it's plagiarized, because it's got to get its information from somewhere. So by definition, it's going to be going through various texts, etc., to extrapolate its information. Where does
Yes.
it come from the point of actually bringing that info where actually somebody could say, if they see it, well, actually, you've just got a paragraph out of my book and you've not asked permission for it.
Yes. I mean, it's a challenge, and there's various cases at the moment. Typically, when you're using AI in that way, you will what the AI is doing is actually generating. So it is generating new content. Um, and there is some protection from you in terms of your use of AI to generate your own content. Now, there are some exceptions to this. If you are putting in a prompt which inevitably would lead to an infringement, so for instance, you're asking the AI to create something in the style of Disney that looks very much like a Disney character or a Disney plot, then there is a point at which potentially there is an infringement here that that is because of your prompt, not because of the AI, and because the AI will do basically what you've asked it to. Um, but in terms of generating new information, creating something, um, typically you have some protection. Most of the large language models will give you some level of protection against copyright infringement. Now, there are various court cases ongoing, particularly in the US, where um, there is some challenge as to whether the original uh, collection of data was actually validly uh, carried out. But again, that is more of an issue for OpenAI and other large language models than it is likely to be for yourself using that tool.
No, okay. So, I mean, I think it's buyer beware, isn't
Mm,
it? It's
it,
always the fact that you've
it,
got to do your due diligence and you've got to
you
make
do,
sure that you cover yourself.
you
And
do, and
yeah,
there's a challenge which, by contrast to that, if you are using something where and here's the exception. There's a company called Clearview, which without without asking permission, without seeking consent, it gathered a whole load of people's photographs, and it basically scraped from Facebook and LinkedIn, and it will have yours and it will have mine, and it identified the individuals on that photographs. Now, That's that's that is a more significant risk because if you're using a database that's been um, collected in breach of data protection legislation, and you're then using it, you are the controller. You are the person who's then using that data, um, and you're unlikely to have a defense if you haven't carried out due diligence on the AI. So there are some due diligence issues to go through before you start using these tools. Um, but those they're all things that you can get over. But again, as a business, it's a question of working out the benefit and it's working out the risk and making sure you minimize the risk as much as you possibly can and making sure that you get the benefit. Plus, make sure that your employees and whoever else is going to be using the AI is aware of both the risks and also how to minimize those.
And with regards to your workshops, they sound
Mm,
amazing. What advice would you say to the listeners who thinking actually could really do with giving Richard
mm,
a call because this sounds something that is really beneficial for our business? What
yeah.
would you like to leave the listeners with now to think, right, okay, this is one of the key reasons why they should get you involved
Mm.
rather than try and do it for themselves?
Yeah, well, I would say give me a call. I can show you. Here's a challenge. I can show you within 10 minutes at most how AI can benefit your business. Then if I can't do that, then don't use me. If I can do that, then maybe there's something in that you might want to that might want to use. If you do set up a call with me, as well as being able to show you immediately how this might benefit you, I'll also provide anyone who gives me a call with something for free that is valuable that you can use whether or not you then end up um, getting me involved in your business. I'll gladly give you some training that you can look at, go away, go through with your employees, and you can see if you think this is valuable for you. Certainly for the clients I've worked with, they've found it to be very valuable, and I've no doubt I can help your listeners as well.
Wonderful. And who doesn't need a bit of help with AI? I mean, really, it's such a big, enormous behemoth of a thing. You've got to start somewhere, as you said, but where do you start? Where do you not waste all that
Mm.
time? Yeah, I think that your service is absolutely brilliant and so on point for what organizations are looking for now. Richard, how can people get hold of you?
Well, I could go to my my link, which is richnicholas.com. It's richnicholas.com. And on there, what you'll find is various buttons that will take you to different things. It's the Simple AI School, which actually sets out the work I do with businesses on AI and how I might help them to get through AI in particular. So richnicholas.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks for that insightful, very wise way of looking at AI through the challenges that we're facing and how perhaps we can use that to really benefit not just our businesses, but from the people. I love the fact that you said empower, not impose. That is so good because anybody that owns what they're doing and can be proud of it, it means that they're so much more engaged. So I think that's absolutely amazing. So thank you, my darling. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks very much.
Excellent. And
Thank
for
you.
everybody listening, I hope that was enjoyable because ultimately, as I said, this is something which we all know about, but we might be in varying degrees of actually getting to grips with it. And what better way to actually have a free call with one of the experts that can actually say, right, you know what, this is something which, you can have a demo, you can see if it's going to be right for you. But to get those results from AI and moving forward, really good to future-proof your business. So thanks everybody for listening. It's been wonderful to have you. Thank you for your support. Wouldn't be here without you. As always, like, comment, share, because you never know who this may resonate with. And subscribe. The more we subscribe, the more that we can spread the message. So absolutely fantastic. Until everybody, until next time, be successful. Bye bye now.